Humm, baby.
Enjoy this great game.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Humm Baby Baseball channel. Eric here, and we're ranking the top 10 baseball movies, at least my personal ranking, my personal list. This is not based on how good the films are artistically necessarily, although that does count because it affects how much I enjoy them. But basically, it's just a list of how much I enjoy these films, how often I go back to them, how near and dear they are to me. And so it is not going to be a list that's going to be your typical top 10 list. I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to completely disagree, but that's okay. Put your top 10 list down below. I do have a ton of honorable mentions I'm going to run through real quick because you're going to be wondering why some of these weren't on the top 10. Mr. 3000, a hilarious movie featuring Bernie Mac, a really enjoyable film. Well, it's not like one of my favorites of all time, but I definitely have seen it many, many times. That's a great one. The Rookie is a fantastic film about Jim Morris and how he came back into baseball and actually made it to the big leagues. You know, as an older guy in his 30s, he was or his late 30s, you know, he was a teacher at a high school and just a normal everyday guy, you know, who had no, his baseball career was long behind him, and he actually makes a comeback and makes it to the big leagues. The Rookie is a fantastic movie. Elmer the Great, that is a classic from the 30s, one that I've really enjoyed and go back to all the time. If you haven't seen Elmer the Great, it is hilarious. It is entertaining, a lot of fun. You might want to check that one out. 42 is a newer film about the Jackie Robinson story, and it is unbelievable. It is awesome. It probably will creep its way into the top 10 eventually. I just haven't rewatched it enough to consider it, you know, that good for me personally, but it was awesome. I saw it in theaters, and I haven't gotten a chance to rewatch it yet, but that was an awesome movie. The Fan is one that is about the Giants, so it's kind of near and dear to my heart. I love The Fan. It's also a horror movie, and I love horror movies. You're combining horror and baseball and a thriller type movie. I don't know if I should say horror, maybe more of a thriller, a psychological thriller, but it is a freaking really fun movie. Some of the baseball scenes are a little shaky, you know, that's something that I do care about a lot, how realistic the baseball scenes are, but The Fan is a crazy one. I would definitely check that out with Wesley Snipes. While I was editing, I realized I forgot Field of Dreams. That definitely deserves to be an honorable mention. I do have some issues with the movie, especially the portrayal of some of the baseball players like Shoeless Joe Jackson. It was quite a bit off, and so that's always bothered me, but all in all, it's a pretty good watch. Obviously, Field of Dreams is recommended as a good baseball movie. Just for me, it would not be in the top 10. Rookie of the Year and Little Big League are two of my favorites that feature a little kid who somehow ends up on a big league team, one as a manager, one as a player. Both of those are a lot of fun. And then three really famous movies that didn't make the list: Bull Durham, Bang the Drum Slowly, and The Natural. You're like, how the hell are those not on your top 10? They're all really good. The Natural, honestly, it has its epic moments, but it's a little bit over dramatic, over the top at times. I've never loved that movie beginning to end. And the other two films, Bang the Drum Slowly and Bull Durham, fantastic. I haven't rewatched them that much. I don't go back to them as much as some of the movies on my top 10, and that's why they didn't make it, but they are definitely awesome. So let's get into the top 10 baseball movies. For me, my list, let's go starting at number 10. And you're going to say, how the hell did this movie make the list and those other great films didn't? Again, personal taste, and it's The Babe. And part of it is I love reading about Babe Ruth. I love watching films when they're decent, and really the only one we had for so long was the Babe Ruth story, and that was a 1948 movie, and it is awful. It is one of the worst movies ever freaking made. This 1991 version with John Goodman, I'm not saying it's a masterpiece. It's got flaws, but you got to remember, I was 11 years old when it came out. I was so thrilled that we had another Babe Ruth movie. I went to the theaters, and I freaking loved it. I mean, I loved it. I was like, that's my favorite movie I've ever seen. Period. Now, obviously, as I've gotten older, I noticed more of the flaws, more of the exaggerations in the movie, more of the problems with the movie, and why it's not necessarily a great film. But still, for me, rewatchability, I mean, I've seen it hundreds of times. I love The Babe, and I just, just really enjoy it. And I think that it is not that bad of an interpretation of Babe Ruth. I think that, yeah, it does have flaws, but it's just definitely one of my favorite films. I go back to it time and time again. So I had to put The Babe on the list, and it gets at number 10. Number 9 is The Sandlot. It's a classic. Sandlot never gets old. Seen it I don't know how many times. What a great film that is. I love the movie, and that's all. I mean, everyone's seen The Sandlot how many iconic lines come from that film. Man, you're killing me, Smalls. And on and on and on. There are so many lines from that film that have entered into the our everyday culture, and it's just a great film. It's a fun watch. It never gets old. I mean, pretty much a perfect movie. I love The Sandlot. It's in at number 9. But I do tend to enjoy even more movies that are really based on actual things that happen in Major League Baseball. And, there's no story more compelling than the Black Sox, the White Sox of 1919, how they threw the series and 8 Men Out. 8 Men Out comes in at number 8, appropriately enough, but I love 8 Men Out. It is fantastic. Great, great movie. Really tells the story nicely. I mean, there is probably some exaggerations, but nothing too over the top. I think it is pretty faithful to what actually happened, and I can't get enough of 8 Men Out. Seen that movie I don't know how many times. Would definitely recommend it if you haven't checked that one out. 8 Men Out comes in at number 8, and at number 7 is Bad News Bears. Wow. Been watching it my whole life. I must have watched it when I was 6 years old, and I never stopped. I'm talking obviously about the old one. There is a newer version of it with Billy Bob Thornton that's not as good. I'm not saying it's not okay. I mean, you can watch it, but it's not. It's basically the same movie. Everything is just brought down. It's not nearly as good. That original film, Bad News Bears, love it. There is a couple sequels, and they're actually not that bad. I like Bad News Bears 2, and Bad News Bears 3 drops off a little more, but the original, that's where it's at. What a story about this little league team, this team that has nothing, and then your manager that's forced to manage the team, and he's an alcoholic, and it's just, he's terrible, but he finally starts to, get into this thing and starts to change a little bit. And just to watch that process, and then it's just a hilarious movie too. And no holds barred. It came out in the late 70s, I believe. The kids are cussing. I mean, it's just 100%. That's a lot of fun. I can't recommend it enough. You want to get that one on physical media, because you never know how these days they're trying to change everything. And that is a movie that has a lot of offensive stuff, offensive and hilarious. I love it. And at number 6 is gonna be A League of Their Own, a fantastic film about the women's baseball league that started during World War II. And this movie, I don't know how they came up with such a great, script and a great plot, and they're able to get, stars like Tom Hanks, who is excellent. Gina Davis is excellent. Madonna is excellent. So it's got a super cast, and they are the story that's being told of the two sisters that go into the league, and everything that happens. Just a fantastic story. And also you get to see, the actual, how that league formed and how it operated and everything like that. So it's a kind of a fictional story within a real world that actually happened. And that's a movie that I don't never get enough of that movie. A League of Their Own comes in at number 6. In at number 5 is going to be 61 with the asterisk. Billy Crystal directs this movie. It is absolutely phenomenal. This is a movie that had to be made, telling the story about Roger Maris, how he broke Babe Ruth's single season record, what he had to go through, how he wasn't completely accepted in New York. They wanted Mickey Mantle to be the one to break the record, but it's Maris. He goes through a lot during this really rough season, and he still comes out on top. Obviously, I'm a huge Roger Maris fan. I absolutely love this movie, telling the story of that season. And you even get to see Mickey Mantle. He has an arc in the movie. And it's an unbelievable movie. It's like a real movie, but you're seeing what actually happened. I'm not saying it's perfectly told, but, as far as what actually happened, but it's pretty close. And I think, I can't get enough of 61, a fantastic baseball movie. But here at number 4, you're going to be like, how the hell did this make your list? Much less number 4. I've probably seen this movie more than any other movie ever made, and that's Mr. Baseball. I can't tell you why, but again, it's another movie that came out when I was young. I was 11 years old as well when this one came out in 1991. Absolutely loved Mr. Baseball. Been watching it ever since, and it's just a great film about an aging veteran. He's having a rough year. He's hitting around 230, and they send him to Japan, where he goes over there and he's a little stuck up, and he's not wanting to behave and do what you're supposed to do and adhere to the culture, but eventually he has to be taught how to do that, because obviously you have to hit rock bottom, then you rise again. And just a great story of accepting the culture over in Japan and becoming a better person for it. Really love Mr. Baseball, but obviously when I was 11 years old, I probably just loved the baseball, and the baseball is really good in this film. You can tell these guys have played. You could tell Tom Selleck can swing a bat, and some of the other cast members, they know how to play ball. So a very fun movie, Mr. Baseball, highly recommended. For me personally, it's up on my list at number 4. Moving into number 3 is The Pride of the Yankees. This movie is unbelievable. It is obviously an older film, and maybe that kind of hurts it just because, you know, some of the quality, sound quality and all that is not going to be as good as your more modern films. But from a storytelling perspective, it cannot get much better. This is the story of Lou Gehrig, and it is fantastic. You know, I haven't seen it for a while. In fact, it's probably about time I need to rewatch that one. I've saw it multiple times growing up, you know, 10, 20 times in my life. It is a fantastic movie, and it is in at number 3 on my personal list. But at number 2, shockingly, is a new movie, relatively new compared to a lot of these movies I'm talking about. Came out in 2011. I just was thrilled when I saw this movie at the theaters. It was so much more than I thought it was going to be, so much better than I thought it was going to be, and I found that I can rewatch it pretty much almost every day if I wanted to. And I don't know if I'd ever get tired of it. And that's Moneyball. And I don't know why I really was drawn to this movie, how you can see how baseball operates from the front office. I know, again, there is some liberties taken, but it was so awesome and it was so funny. I mean, I love it that it was like a comedy, not over the top, but it was funny. It was pretty accurate. You got freaking Brad Pitt as Billy Bean. I mean, it doesn't get no better than that. And the baseball is pretty damn good. You got an actor who plays David Justice, and it looks like, you know, he's awesome in it. And you got you got guys who, you know, like players that we've watched growing up. And, you know, even as adults, you watch these players, and now they're on the big screen with actors portraying them. I just found it so cool. Yeah, I know we've seen actors portray Mickey Mantle, like I talked about in Babe Ruth and 8 Men Out, but I never watched those players. Now I'm seeing guys who I've watched on TV in a movie. I don't know why. I really just found that very appealing, and I really loved this movie, and I thought it was fantastic. Fantastic film from almost all aspects. I would highly recommend Moneyball. It is one of my favorites, and that's why it's at number 2. But coming in at number 1 is my favorite baseball movie of all time. You might have guessed it. You might already know what it is because I haven't said it yet, and it's Major League. Holy freaking cow. This one came out in 88. I was 8 years old, and I watched it for the first time on television, and it didn't have all the cuss words and everything, but I still freaking loved it. Recorded it on VHS, watched it over and over and over. And then when I was like 15, 16, I finally actually got the version, the actual unedited version. Freaking loved it. It was absolutely hilarious, and it tells just an amazing story of this team that goes from terrible and, you know, makes it to the playoffs in an unbelievable season. Major League 2 is almost the same type of story, but another season. I thought they did a fantastic job at doing a sequel, doing some justice to the original, but, you know, not nearly as good as the original. They went PG for that one. I think part of why Major League is so hilarious is also it is because it's so crude. It's just like how they really talk, and I love their manager in the film. I love the whole cast. Wesley Snipes in here, who I mentioned earlier in The Fan. They're all in this movie, and they are all fantastic. The entire team, you root for them, and you know, you have a villain in the movie with the owner, the wife of the deceased owner, and she wants to move the team to, I believe, Florida. She wants to take the team, move them to Miami, and so she wants them to lose. So she is trying to just hijack the whole season and take them down, but they rise up anyway. What a film. Major League is absolutely hilarious and absolutely entertaining. There's not a second where I'm not loving Major League, and I probably will be watching this one for the rest of my life over and over and never get tired of it. It is awesome, and it is number 1. I love Major League. Number 1 on my list of top 10 baseball movies of all time. Guys, let me know below, what do you think about it? What is your favorite baseball movies? Did I miss any? I'm sure I missed several that are really, really good that just either spaced my mind. I tried my hardest to remember everything, and I looked through my collection, tried not to miss any. I'm pretty sure that I didn't miss any I would have put on my top 10, but let me know anyway what I missed. There's also a movie called Sugar that I have the Blu-ray. I have not seen it yet, but I've heard great things about it, so I'm really looking forward to checking that one out. You guys have a fantastic day. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It helps more than you can imagine. Hit that thumbs up button. Check the links in the description. We're going to talk to you next time. See ya! When the Giants come to town, it's bye-bye, baby. Every time the chips are